all of you know that Mani Mugdha Sharma is our friend. We know, we see him, his articles, his book, we have read it. I think Allahu Akbar. All of you may be aware about it, about his love and passion for history as a scholar and as a journalist. And many times I'm blessed to read his articles. He is working as a senior editor in Times of India. And today we are here with him on a very interesting title, Tiger's Last Road. So Mani, can you please elaborate the title? What is all about this talk?
So for me, when I talk about Tiger, so the only one face comes to my mind, and that is of Tipu Sultan, because that's how he fashioned himself. It was a psychological warfare of its time as well. And plus, the tiger was considered to be a very sacred symbol of power, which had been used. There was a long tradition of using the tiger motif. Cholas had used it. Again, a South Indian power.
Yes.
So there was a tradition of that, and the Tipu Sultan used that, and so he, designed a new throne for himself with, these tigers, gold encrusted and diamond encrusted tigers. So his sword was, the hilt was designed like a tiger's head. So the tiger motif, his army's uniforms were designed like the tiger skin uniforms, and the flag, of course. So this was also one of the standards, was also like or designed like the stripes of a tiger. So he adopted this, and the British were, they bought onto this very well, because the British projected themselves as the lions. Okay, so even today, the symbol of Britain or the British is the lion. So now, once you have a lion which is coming here to India, and then you see another one who is popping up as a tiger, so it was easy for them to play that game. And eventually, when Tipu Sultan is defeated, they issue a medal called the Seringapatam medal. Seringapatam medal.
Seringapatam medal.
So it was given to all those regiments and soldiers who participated in the Mysore operations, and also to Indian regiments, which some of them which continue in the Indian Army today. They also won the Seringapatam medal. So in that, it was shown as a lion,
yes,
bouncing on a tiger that's lying flat on the back. So you have a total domination of the lion over the tiger. So I think from that point on, this is of course a matter of conjecture because it has not been written down, but it is possible to make an assumption that the symbol of the lion used for India, for instance, if you go to Victoria Terminus in Bombay,
yes,
और छत्रपति शिवाजी टर्मिनस, तो वहां पे what do you see कि जो main उनका गेटवे है उसमें एक तरफ तो there's a lion, on the other side there's a tiger. So कि मतलब India and Britain are sitting there side by side. So the use of the tiger to denote India, that symbol, I think originates from Tipu Sultan's time because of the struggle that happened between him and the British. तो उसी time पे ये इन्होंने शुरू किया. Or it continued after that. So, इसीलिए, I thought, and that's how it was. All these governors general, for instance, Lord Wellesley, and before him Lord Cornwallis. So they would, say things like, we are going to extract the teeth of the tiger one by one. So by that they mean they're going to defang Tipu Sultan. So this is how the propaganda warfare of the time, happened. So you had the British lion was the tiger.
And even the British Library has a musical tiger that Tipu used to have in his...
Yes.
And that
so you have a tiger which is mauling what looks like a British soldier.
Yes.
So each time you play the so the man tiger roars. So I suppose that's a very powerful symbol. So he was totally badass, I mean, you have to concede that it was total badassery on the part of Tipu Sultan, to conjure something like that, to terrorize his opponents. I think that was really cool. But yeah, so that's precisely why I always use, or in fact, he himself called him Sher-e Mysore.
Yeah, Sher-e Mysore, yes.
So इसीलिए वो बड़ा strong रहा है. इसीलिए we thought कि we will
this title came up from that theme
title
actually.
इसीलिए आया.
Yeah. So this is how it has been derived. So Mani, let's go back to the birth of Tipu Sultan, the place where he was born, and he was named after some Sufi saint also. I have read somewhere that he was named from some Tipu Mastan. Is a saint from Arcot, I think.
Arcot, हाँ. अभी भी है उनका मज़ार.
Yes. There is a shrine used to there, and at that time Hyder Ali was dispatched at that area, or he was posted in that area when Tipu was born. As you told me.
And Tipu Sultan's mother, she came from a line of Sufis.
Yes.
You see that Tipu Sultan's great ancestor, जैसे Sheikh Wali Ahmad, Sheikh Wali Muhammad, और उनके बेटे थे शेख फतेह मोहम्मद, उनके बेटे नवाब हैदर अली. So that was the line. So he came from Delhi. That's going by Kirmani's genealogy. जो उन्होंने Kirmani was the official biographer and chronicler of Tipu Sultan. So according to him, this is the route that they followed from Delhi onwards down to Gulbarga, Karnataka में. So वहाँ पे he got attached to the dargah of Gesudaras Banda Nawaz.
Gesudaras Banda Nawaz, yes.
हाँ, तो उन्हीं के दरगाह में थे. तो उसके बाद तो ट्रेडिशनली तो फिर उनके बेटे की शादी, तो शेख फतेह मोहम्मद की शादी हुई to another family that again served another dargah. So Tipu Sultan's mother, Nawab Hyder Ali, also married a woman who was attached to another Sufi dargah. So this is how that tradition continued in their lives.
So they have very close associations. Yeah, they have very close association with the Sufism, or we say some Sufi masters.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
They have, I think, Makhdoom Jahaniya Jahan Gasht or someone. They have also some connection from them. Say Jalaluddin of
कोई connections तो बाद में
they were involved
बाद में create किए गए because for legitimacy. क्योंकि आप देखिए कि some of the later उन्हीं के दौरान मतलब it was commissioned by Tipu Sultan and before him Nawab Hyder Ali. So the moment Hyder Ali becomes the king, so now you are raised from obscurity. As long as you remain a Subedar of Dindigul, that's all fine. I mean, you can still rise to that level on the basis of merit. But the moment you become king, आपको legitimacy अलग किस्म की चाहिए होती है. तो इसीलिए
so you have to some divine connection, some
इसीलिए ये किया गया कि भाई now they started tracing this descent from the Quraysh tribe. कि रसूल अल्लाह की ट्राइब से वो बिलोंग करते थे और अरब
so the Arab connection was also traced at that time, or tried to be evolved at that time, or weaved at that time, we can say. So
इसीलिए tradition continued. इसीलिए when Fatima Begum, Hyder Ali's second wife, so she went to the dargah because dargah को बहुत मानते थे. तो टीपू मुस्तान औलिया dargah is a very well known dargah in Arcot. तो वहां पे जाके मन्नत मांगा. तो फिर she was already pregnant, I think. So जो बाद में सीरियल में दिखाया गया है कि उन्हीं के आशीर्वाद की वजह से मिला बच्चा हुआ. I think वो थोड़ा सा exaggeration है, but I think she was also
exaggeration. But and in this way he was named after the saint. So in this way he was
named was named after him. Absolutely. So Tipu Sultan after Tipu Mastan Aulia.
Tipu Mastan.
So
what was the Mani, what was the political situation at that time? When we look at the mid half of 18th century in that region, especially, we know North India was quite fragmented at that time. Here in Bengal also there was a lot of chaos, and East India Company was on rise. After some time, Battle of Plassey took place after his birth. So the Britishers were almost setting their foot at that time, and Marathas were evolved as a very big regional power. And Nizam also started as a separate dynasty. So can you please give some background that what was the situation at that time in the neighboring states?
Right. So, see, two things were happening parallelly. One, of course, the Mughal Empire was receding. So all these Subedars or viceroys of the Mughal Emperor, they were proclaiming their independence. So you had the Nizam, Asaf Jah, who became the first Nizam. So अपना उन्होंने एक independent kingdom कायम किया. Then you had Sadat Ali Khan in Awadh. So he broke away from the empire again. So the Nawab Wazir, even though it remained as a title, but they were practically independent. Bengal, may we see that during the time of Murshid Quli Khan, के time से we see that there is a sort of an independent functioning of this Subedar of Bengal. Similarly in the Deccan, so now you had the Marathas were coming up as a major power in the Deccan. So and all these independent kingdoms नीचे मतलब जो सूबे थे, जैसे you had
Yes.
Arcot was a Suba, Sira was a Suba. So these were Mughal Subas. So all the Subadars were trying to become independent.
Yes.
Now this was the situation which was happening at that time, and parallelly the French and the British, they were continuing their European wars in the Indian subcontinent. So their trading companies to naam ke vaste the, but all the fighting was done by the regular army contingents that both these countries sent. So you had the French, and इनके जो Carnatic wars थे, जिसको हम जानते हैं, we call them the Carnatic wars between the
Carnatic
English
wars.
and the French.
English and the French.
So इसमें तो पूरा troop deployment was completely from Europe. So all that best of their troops came from both countries, and they started fighting on Indian soil. And now Indians started taking their sides. तो कभी एक बार उसके साथ, so originally when they started off, this Carnatic wars में Mysore also participated, and Mysore started off as a British ally.
Okay.
Because the British were supporting Chanda Sahib इधर Arcot में, उनको support कर रहे थे. तो उसके बाद फिर the French became more successful in that period when Dupleix was the governor of Pondicherry. तो उस जमाने में फ्रांसीसियों का बड़ा चलता था. तो suddenly and Hyder Ali was fighting in that army. So he was very impressed by whatever he saw, that these two European armies, they were completely different in their fighting style. So a very infantry heavy engagement that they would fight, and their guns, their marksmanship was something that Indians were very impressed with. And originally बहुत पहले से मुगलों के जमाने में भी आप देखिए, there was this practice of employing European gunners. तो किसी को पता हो या ना हो, दो चीजों के लिए जो है Europeans बहुत माने जाते थे हिंदुस्तान में. Everyone thought, every Indian ruler thought that either he is a surgeon or a doctor or he is an artillery man. The European has to be expert in either of these. या तो बहुत अच्छा डॉक्टर होगा कोई भी यूरोपियन आए, या फिर जो है एक अच्छा तोपची होगा. So this time they actually saw that. Now these were professional armies that were fighting. These were not colonial armies. Okay, इसमें regular contingents, and Mysore was very impressed, especially Hyder Ali, seeing the British, the way they fought, withstanding the sieges one after the other. तो इसमें बहुत बड़ा फर्क पड़ गया. But eventually, the British were, they also realized, and especially Hyder Ali, that the British were keen to have you as an ally, but they would never part with their technology. आपके सिपाहियों को नहीं सिखाएंगे, आपको अपने हथियार नहीं देंगे. So the British really wanted to control the technology. They would not, sell any weapons to any Indian powers. But the French were willing to do that. और शुरू में Carnatic wars में फ्रेंच का पलड़ा भारी था. So before Wandy Wash in 1760, तो उससे पहले Wandy Wash is like a disaster for the French.
Yes.
पर उससे पहले तक the French, where they had the upper hand for a long time. And उस दौरान Hyder Ali thought that maybe it's good, and because he was also becoming a preeminent personality. So he had a very good equation with both the brothers. So even though there was a king in Mysore, which was the Wadiyar king, but real power was exercised by these two brothers, Devraj and Nanjaraj. So one was the Dalwai, the other was the prime minister. Dalwai माने commander in chief. तो इन दोनों के चलते जो है हैदर अली का बहुत अच्छा relation था दोनों के साथ. So he was able to convince, and of course Nanjaraj also realized that yes, the French were probably a better bet, because they're willing to be not just your allies, they're also willing to train your armies. उनके officers भेजते थे सिखाने के लिए कि भाई how to drill, और कैसे फायर करे, mass volleys कैसे फायर किया जाए. So all of these, the French were willing to teach, and apart also sharing technology to design arms and weapons और artillery के लिए. So इसमें फिर बाद में फ्रांसीसियों का जो है influence Mysore में बहुत ज्यादा रहा, so at the cost of the British, and which is why I think that was also one of the early reasons of conflict between the British as well as and Mysore, because the British did not want the French to have an upper hand, because they were fighting their own war. The War of Austrian Succession चल रहा था, इधर आपका हिंदुस्तान में भी आ गया, उसका effect अमेरिका में भी पड़ा. ये उनके French and Indian wars जो चल रहे थे. So all of this was connected, you know. So India was not immune to that. So we like to think that आजकल के ज़माने में globalization है. Of course,
but
communication and travel are much easier now. But even in those times, it was possible to have these, you know, global events always triggered reactions that had very far-reaching impact. So अगर अमेरिका में कुछ हो रहा है उसका असर हिंदुस्तान में तो पड़ना ही था. And in case of Anglo-Mysore conflict, we see that there's a direct reason why अमेरिका में जो भी हुआ उसका असर हिंदुस्तान में पड़ा. So I think in this period, Tipu Sultan was born. Again, so I went to Bangalore in February. So I landed very early in the morning. तो वहाँ पे airport से मैं आ रहा था around 4:30 in the morning. So I was, you know, traveling out to the hotel. And all the time I was thinking that अच्छा यही कहीं पे शायद पैदा हुए होंगे टिपू सुल्तान और यहीं पे शायद वो मराठों के साथ जंग लड़ी गई थी, because Devanhalli was a Maratha territory which Hyder Ali won and integrated with the Mysore kingdom. So yes, so if this is the beginning of this is just a brief description of the period.
Yeah, this is the situation when he was born. Definitely there was a lot of
this is the background
fragmented
into
powers.
Tipu Sultan come.
There were a lot of fragmented powers, lot of European incursions or the new colonial naval powers were inside. They are setting foot on different coast of India and definitely in his region also. At that time, not only British, but this was the time that Hyder Ali, from his military genius, imbibed the technologies from Europeans. And this was the time, I think, the basis for their military supremacy for the coming days, what we saw in Anglo-Mysore War and some other wars. So this was established during this region or was evolved in this time.
Yes,
I think definitely there was exchange of technology and there was some evidences for that how they have been introduced the artillery at the higher level, the technology using of rockets. I think also will come later on this.
Yes, absolutely. So Mysore constantly evolved, you know, and Hyder Ali realized that, you know, in fact, you have to give Hyder Ali more credit for this, because he had the foresight to, you know, build an army on European lines. Okay, so the consciousness had come in us time pe, because you see that even the Marathas, they tried to reorganize their armies on European lines.
On the European lines, yes. They have the French generals. De Boigny was one of the famous. Then Perron was there, and even in North India they tried to upgrade their armies based on that.
But शुरू में क्या करते हैं, तो Marathas में ये फर्क होता है कि, you know, there was a legendary general निजाम हैदराबाद के पास थे, Debussy. So Debussy was like, you know, the great guru जिनके बहुत सारे चेले हुआ करते थे. So one of them was Ibrahim Khan Gardi. So originally Marathas thought कि directly Francisco का मदद लेने के बजाय, why can't we get some of these French trained, you know, troops and make them defect
like Gardi, like Gardi, huh?
हाँ, तो Gardis means the guards. So these were a guard corps. इसलिए इसमें Persian में Gardi हो गया. तो इब्राहिम खान गार्दी है और इनको ट्रेन किया. सो इस मामले में हैदर अली थोड़े से अलग थे, बिकॉज हैदर अली डायरेक्टली गॉट फ्रेंच ऑफिसर्स और पेरोन वगैरह तो थोड़े बाद में आए, बट हैदर अली वाज रियली फर्स्ट, यू नो, टू अंडरस्टैंड दैट इसका जो है बहुत जबरदस्त इम्पैक्ट होने वाला है. सो ही रीऑर्गेनाइज्ड हिज आर्मी और पहले ही स्टार्टेड ऑफ विद हिज ओन कंटिंजेंट, एंड वंस ही सीज्ड पावर, उसके बाद द एक्सपेरिमेंट वाज कैरिड आउट ऑन द एंटायर आर्मी. तो इसीलिए it became possible for Mysore to, you know, actually terrorize European armies like that, the way it did.
The way they did, they are standing on the parallel grounds. I think we can say that from the technology point of view, at least they are standing on the parallel grounds.
Yeah, so, they understood that.
So Mani, let's continue our talk and we will come on first Anglo-Mysore War. We know that our topic is actually Tipu, so we'll not go in the detail how Hyder Ali came to power and he was coronated and he became a king, replacing Abadiyars. So when the first Mysore War, Anglo-Mysore War took place, I think Tipu was quite young. At that time,
very young.
He was in the
15,
teens,
I think.
14 or 15 years.
Tipu was very young, but उस जमाने में क्या होता था कि you would train your children at a very early age.
Exactly.
So warfare training, if we see in the time of the Mughals as well. See, Babur becomes an emperor at the age of 11.
At the age of 11,
let's say king. उस जमाने में emperor नहीं था, बाद में emperor.
King.
But he becomes the king of Fargana at the age of 11. Of course, it was due to unforeseen consequences, but फिर भी. Unfortunate circumstances की वजह से बने थे, लेकिन फिर भी we have to admit that by the age of 11, Babur was in a position
Babur was
to
in a position.
take claim. And even so with Akbar, because at the age of 13, he already had military commands. He was already the governor of Punjab. So बच्चों में भी मतलब they used to start very early. From the age of 6, 7 से उनको जो है फौजी तरबियत दी जाती थी. And so by the time they are 10, 11, 12 or in their mid-teens, they already have some experience. And Tipu Sultan really, gave the impression, they made a very good impression on not just his father, but also on the British, because Tipu, the hallmark of Tipu was his lightning raids, so the ability to appear at some place where the enemy was not expecting him. तो ये इनफैक्ट एक थोड़ी बात का है वाकया, फिर भी मैं आपको सुना देता हूँ, बिकॉज देयर वाज अ besieged Madras army मद्रास में, बिकॉज अब क्या हुआ है, बिकॉज हैदर अली के कैपिटल में they attacked Mysore, the British, thinking that this would force Hyder Ali to come back. So what Hyder Ali instead did, he sent Tipu Sultan की भाई जाके जो है वहां पे चढ़ाई कर दो, उनको अंग्रेजों के मरकज में घुस के उनको मारो. So the British were forced to withdraw their troops out of Mysore and then send them to defend Madras. Now the besieged Madras garrison, and this is a very apt description जो उन्हीं के garrison commander ने लिखा था कि एक आवाज आई धीरे धीरे कि there's a very organized march which is happening, and there's an army which is coming, and then they see that there are standards दूर and pura ekdam European fashion mein armies marching. So they think that, okay, this is the relief force from Bombay which is coming.
They are expecting their support.
Relief force aane wala tha ki yehi hai wo. But thodi der baad, when they see that the standards are now clear, it's a Mysore army. Unke standards are visible. So it is Tipu Sultan who has come. A young Tipu Sultan at the head of the army.
It's like a completely surprise, and their policies are more aggressive rather than defensive. Whenever they find a chance, they were more aggressive. So this gave a psychological impact of the warfare. Let us, Mani, tell our friends and the participants, those who are here. Thank you, Dr. Atiullah, Akshat Lal, and Abu Isa Bhai joining, one of our friend from England. So the point is that if you will write on the Tawarikh Funny wall, we can see your comments. So please write any queries, any questions. If you write on my profile, on Mani's profile, or Indo-Islamic culture, we will not receive on StreamYard. So if you have any queries, any questions for the other, those who are looking it from the different places, you have any question, just please write it here on Tawarikh Funny. We will answer your question. It will be more interactive. That will be more fun and more better or interesting session. So please write your queries and questions in between, whatever you have. Thank you, Mani. Sorry for interrupting. Yes.
Thank you. So that was he was very young, with 15 years ke age mein, this first Anglo-Mysore war happens, and he performs very well. And of course his father was always worried, because he knew that Tipu is very recklessly
very reckless.
भिड़ जाते हैं, and I see in that बहुत अकबर जैसे tendencies मुझे दिखते हैं Tipu Sultan में, at least in terms of war fighting. He would get into situations where he should not be, or he would not do that, जो शायद नहीं करना चाहिए था, but he used to do that. So his father always had the best of troops to defend Tipu wherever he went. So, and the war went off quite well for Mysore. And in fact, it is this war, the first Anglo-Mysore war, which actually, it builds a very concrete reputation of Hyder Ali and later on Tipu Sultan, because for 20 years it was Hyder Ali who was actually troubling the British. So, and the Marathas, of course. So Hyder Ali made it possible for not just the rise of Mysore, but also he gave hope that at some point all the other Indian powers would unite against the company, because उन्हीं के ज़माने में ही कोशिश करते हैं कि एक tripartite alliance हो जाए between the Nizam of Hyderabad and the Marathas, and he succeeds in that. It's just that Warren Hastings proves to be the man of the hour, because he manages to break away this alliance. एक दूसरे को जो है एक दूसरे को भिड़ाते हैं. And of course, there was no real commitment towards the alliance among the other powers, because they did not realize the nature of the English company. and its design. So it was Hyder Ali who actually realized that. He realized that the British are here for the long haul. वो जाने वाले तो है नहीं, और इनको तिजारत करना है नहीं, मतलब वो तो करेंगे, उसके साथ साथ हुकूमत भी करनी है. So this he got the feeling. He got the feeling. So he would make these, he expressed his wish that other Indian powers also realize that, because this is a common enemy. And Tipu Sultan again reiterates that, when you see that he says things like that the coming of the British would alter the way of life of the people. तो एक उस जमाने के हिसाब से भी आप देखिए तो he was aware.
There is a good question, Mani, from Sheikh Suhail Bhai. I guess much of it was due to French influence, the organized military, as you mentioned, European fashion. So how much the influence did French have on Mysore army?
Quite a bit. You see, you have to understand that all the training and everything was imparted by French officers. Okay, so and these were not just mercenaries. They were also, some of them were also regular French army officers.
Yes.
The France's involvement before the revolution was more direct than England's. England में तो ये company चल रहा था, and occasionally when the company would get into trouble, it would be the British government which would bail out the company. वो तो कर ही रहे थे. But in that period, the French were, the government of France was more directly involved in this colonial fighting. So the French did send regular army officers, and they taught them, how to drill. उस line पे कैसे march करें, then how to handle your weapons, and the French supplied the original fusils, these light muskets, and the Mysorean engineers, they retro-engineered many of those weapons and started manufacturing similar weapons in Mysore, and these were very good, high-quality weapons. In fact, some of the weapons are available in Imperial War Museum and at other places. So उस ज़माने का shotgun होता था blunderbuss. So Tipu Sultan was making blunderbusses in his factories in Mysore. So the French did have that influence, but at the same time, theirs used to be a very infantry-heavy army, okay? And Mysore army was not like that. So Hyder Ali and Tipu Sultan did not ignore the development of their cavalry, and the Mysorean light cavalry was world famous for that reason. And Khatam hone ke baad, because the British also realized that Mysorean cavalry was something were forced to reckon with. Isliye they used, to pejoratively, describe the actions of the Mysorean cavalry by using the phrase "swarm of locusts." So the Mysore cavalry was referred to as an army of locusts. So you see that, and at that time you don't see a cavalry contingent in the East India Company's armies. So only these former Mughal armed contingents were used, and these were not regular units. These were irregular units that the company was meeting. The company was using. So the Mysorean cavalry utilized its true potential, and that's why you see that there was a mixture of two things. One is the European way of fighting land battles, infantry-dominated battles, at the same time using the cavalry to the extent that the European armies were not using. So इसमें तो बिल्कुल it was a mixture of both.
Okay, Mani. Yeah, he is asking about. Let me show the comment. Sorry, Suhail bhai, I was hinting about this, but I thought that maybe some other thing. I think you are talking about Napoleon, so we'll come on that. Yes.
नहीं. That's complete myth. There was never any meeting. अरे ना वो गए कभी, ना वो आए इधर कभी. तो मुलाकात कैसे हुई?
There were some embassies and some other things. Okay, yes, Mani, continue.
नहीं, but Napoleon के time में embassy गया नहीं था. It was before.
It was before.
Louis the 16th के time में. Louis the 16th के time में 1786. 1784 से 1786 के दरमियान इन्होंने एक peace embassy भेजा था, peace mission.
And recently,
in fact, not just that.
Yeah. A painting is also available for that embassies. The painting is also
yes, absolutely. And the person who was sent, उनका तो portrait भी available है.
Portrait available है.
Portrait भी बना.
Portrait is available. Recently, I think Ira Mukhoti has shared it on her tweet, that painting. So
Okay,
it's available on Twitter.
I had tweeted that many years back.
Yeah.
That painting. So, but not just that. Tipu Sultan also wanted to send his sons
Mm.
to France, ताकि वहाँ पे उनकी तरबियत हो. So he wanted to, that way he was very open-minded, nahi? मतलब to think of an Indian parent back in the 18th century, thinking about sending his sons abroad, ताकि जो है वहाँ पे फ्रांस में यूनिवर्सिटी में जो है इनकी पढ़ाई हो. I think that was something which is not seen very often in that century, at least in India.
Sorry, Mani,
So-
there is one comment. Too much overlap. Sorry, it's get unclear.
Meeting with Napoleon, and there was one letter that Napoleon supposedly wrote to Tipu Sultan saying that I'm coming to your rescue. वो कितना हकीकत है और एक्चुअल में लिखा गया था कि नहीं, we don't know that. So I don't see any embassy that was sent to Napoleon. But of course, it was the propaganda of its time. It made for it only enabled the case of the British. But yes, Tipu Sultan did send several letters to the Ottoman Sultan.
Ottoman
He sent two embassies to the Ottoman court, and he had several demands. He wanted an investiture from the Ottoman Sultan. First, Abdul Hamid, who was the Sultan, and then later on Salim III. So these were the two sultans to whose courts Tipu Sultan sent his embassies. But the success of that embassy is doubtful because the British were very close to the Turks at that time. Okay, so the Ottomans. So the British were very close, and the Ottomans did not have very good relationship with the French, especially after Napoleon invaded Egypt. तो उस दौरान इन लोगों का जो है, so it was quite obvious that the Ottomans would not really help Tipu Sultan, because they could not antagonize the British, because the British were the one European power that were in their favor at that time. तो बाद में भी देखिए ना, Crimean War में भी तो Russian Empire के खिलाफ भिड़ गए थे ना, for the sake of Turkey. So they could not have antagonized. In fact, whatever Tipu Sultan had sent, the letters and all of that, so the Sultan had shared with the British resident. और in fact पूछा भी था कि ये टिपू सुल्तान कौन है जो मेरे पास embassy भेज रहे हैं. But they were very happy that he had asked for his investiture, because ever since Akbar proclaimed himself as a Shahanshah, there was no Indian king who really applied to the Ottoman Caliph कि आप हमें जो है नुमाइंदे. हाँ, so the Ottomans were that we were very happy with that कि अच्छा हमें तो इज्जत मिली है हिंदुस्तान से. But there was never any real serious. There was never really any serious effort on the part of the Ottomans to have a military alliance with Mysore. So
Mani, let's come to our topic. First of all, about his features, we were talking about that is most of the time it's described with the small feet and small fingers, thick neck, and aquiline nose, fair complexion. Usually you find a very detailed description of Tipu Sultan's personality in many accounts. And so
some of that is racially motivated as well, because in fact there's a book called Tipu Sultan written by Colonel Meadows Taylor. That is a book of fiction, but you should see how Tipu Sultan is described in that. So he's in fact the Sultan is lampooned at every opportunity, and it's projected as if he was hated by his own people and that people made fun of him. So his short stature is talked about, his pot belly is talked about, his की गर्दन और गर्दन और जो है shoulders के बीच में कोई जो है gap नहीं है. So हाँ, हालांकि you see a very different sort of a description in some of these foreigners who actually saw Tipu Sultan. तो उसमें तो मतलब उनका physique थोड़ा अलग सा है, मतलब very robust physique and all that.
बिल्कुल, definitely.
But of course, the painting that you see in the British Library जो है, where slight a paunch is visible. तो उस time पे तो he was already in his late 40s में थे, तो obviously उसमें तो थोड़ा physique में तो फर्क पड़ता ही है. तो मेरा तो अभी 41 ही है, मेरी जो हालत है तो आप you can imagine. So
And
I suppose when it came to the English descriptions, quite of it was racially motivated because this man had to be dehumanized in many ways so
humanized,
that
definitely.
England में लोगों को पता चले कि भाई ये तो बहुत खतरनाक enemy है, you're fighting against him. So the public opinion had to be molded against the Hyder Ali and more against Tipu Sultan, so that the people would fund a military campaign. तो इसीलिए ये होता था. So that's why Tipu Sultan and Hyder Ali were quite well known in Europe.
Abu Isa Bhai has a comment. I read Hyder Ali
Yes.
initially approached British to modernize
Yes.
his army. Was he rebuffed by British and Hyder Ali? Yes, I think this has
Yes,
been discussed.
I mentioned this.
This was
I
mentioned
have
before.
answered this.
Yeah.
हमने बताया in fact when he started off. But
Yes.
yes,
Yeah.
Hyder Ali did want the British to help him because he was very impressed with the way the British were fighting. But of course, the British had this policy that they will not share any technology, nor will they train any of these local princes, because that would somehow take away their own military edge.
So this is a
So they had
supremacy.
a strict policy.
This was a supremacy.
हाँ,
This is a tool on
absolutely,
which they are playing around. So with the
हाँ,
death, second Anglo-Mysore War took place in 1779. So just a few glimpses of that. Still, Hyder Ali was there. He was at the height of his power, and I think
Yes.
Tipu was working
Hyder
under his
Ali.
father.
Yes. Hyder Ali was there, and so इसमें you see that Hyder Ali dies during this second Anglo-Mysore War,
Okay.
and एकदम peak पे, he was at the peak of his power and
Peak of his
career.
power, yeah.
So Tipu Sultan, was campaigning in Malabar when this happened. So he travels from that end of the country to this end, तो west से east की तरफ आते हैं, because that's where Hyder Ali was. वो डिंडीगुल वाले एरिया में थे. तो so Tipu Sultan leaves behind his commanders to take on the Bombay army as he travels, because the news of the death of Hyder Ali was kept a secret. So the Sultan had to be, the successor had to be appointed without any challenges. So इसके लिए, the news of the death was kept secret, just like Humayun's death was kept a secret.
Yes, exactly.
For 15 days, है ना?
For 15 days.
So that it gave ample time for Tipu Sultan to come from Malabar all the way to this part of the country, and वहाँ पे he was at his father's camp. He was proclaimed the successor. So the second Anglo-Mysore War, it more or less ended in a status quo, because Tipu Sultan did not gain much territory, but of course for the British it was a loss of prestige, because for the second time they had to sign another peace without getting any gain.
Any major gains. Yes.
हाँ. Or in fact, उनका जो है, their stakes went down completely, because see, what was happening because of these conflicts was the British Parliament or the British government was really agitated because the stocks of the East India Company were coming down. Okay, उनका जो shares था, उनके profits घट रहे थे because they were losing against Mysore, है ना? तो इससे जो है उस जमाने के share prices पे उनका फर्क पड़ा था. Trade was hampered.
But when we see by this time, they have established as a supreme power in India, because the Buxar has took place and they have taken a large territory from Awadh and Mughal Emperor, and these all were the puppets of. And by the way,
they were. But it was still a bit too early to say that they had absolute control over India, because three large powers still remain. One was Mysore. Mysore was not defeated, and they were fighting. Marathas were a bigger power that way, because it was a bigger confederacy which had control not just over the Deccan but also in North India. They were making
Delhi also.
Nizam of Hyderabad also had a Europeanized army. It was officered by French officers directly. So, but what happened as a result of these Mysore wars? Two acts passed away. One was the Regulating Act of 1773. So, for the first time, the British government decided to regulate the affairs of the East India Company. Okay. उसके court of directors appoint हुए, है ना? So you hear that. And the second time, after the second Anglo-Mysore War, इनका इतना बुरा हाल हो गया था कि the Pitt's India Act had to be signed. कि यहाँ पे आपने एक अलग से जो है Secretary of State appoint किया. Then, so the British government. So this was the precursor to what happened in 1858 with the Queen's Proclamation, the Government of India Act, where all powers were taken over from the company by the British government. उसका जो आगाज हो गया था 1773 रेगुलेटिंग एक्ट के साथ. So Spitz India Act was the next step in that. So it was only because of Mysore and the impact that it had on the East India Company's trading fortune. उनके stocks down हो गए थे. So they had to win somehow and redeem themselves and rescue their fortune. So the British government took control and started supplying more European troops, King's troops as they were called. So Mysore was a constant thorn in the side, and that happened because of these two rulers who were completely relentless in their pursuit of an anti-British agenda. Because Mysore was the only power in South India at that time that did not allow any foreign power to post a resident. The entry of foreigners into Mysore was banned completely. So there was no way realistic or reliable information could get out. इसीलिए spies भेजे जाते थे.
Okay.
इसीलिए, so whatever bits and pieces of information the spies could gather from Mysore, they would pass on to the company headquarters in Bengal. तो वहां पे फिर जो है based on hearsay, ये सब करते थे. In fact, or these racial descriptions were also a result of that, because the spies would tell you certain things.
That's the reason for that. And exactly when you look from 1761 till the last war, it was like more than 3 decades when all this control took with tough time for the Britishers to regain. And again, you will see that the divide policy or the divisive policy, when they divided 3 powers using Nizams and Marathas in their own maneuvering, this helped them to bring down. Otherwise, it was difficult for them to rout Mysore simply without this card. So this divisive card was much more involved here. Although we see in other battles, Plassey, Buxar, but here the military warfare, direct face to face, is not so successful, rather than making an arrangements with the neighboring countries, neighboring powers.
Yes. And the Marathas, just we see gradually both the Nizam and the Marathas, they start contributing their armies, their contingents to the company's war effort. So by the time the Third Anglo-Mysore War happens, that's exactly what happens. So you have a coalition army which marches on Mysore, right? So you have the Nizam sending his contingent, then you have Maratha contingent and the Haripant Phadke, and so they come together with the Bombay army. So and then of course Cornwallis comes down directly from Calcutta himself during the Third Anglo-Mysore War. So by all means, they wanted to finish off this resistance which was coming, because that was upsetting not just their fortunes but even their prestige, because the English armies would not really easily withdraw. And in the face of Mysorean armies, they were doing that. So I think that was also a very cultural thing. You are fighting against a Mohammedan power, because the British constantly use this. The Mohammedans. So it was very crusader language. Crusader kind of language that was used. So you have a Christian power. So suddenly the British discover their identity as a Christian power. And Tipu Sultan is seen as a Mohammedan
power. And even we see in the far beyond the lands of India, there was a war took place in Delaware. This was a war between American revolutionaries and the British forces. And Captain Moore was commanding the British ship, and that was said that it was twice the size of the ship that Americans have. But the ship has a unique name, Heather Ali.
Yes.
Has been given up. And this is just a sign of British resistance. Unfortunately, they won also. I think Captain Joshua was leading that ship, and they won. They have launched the 16 guns on that ship, and fortunately
because the name of Hyder Ali, like I said,
name of Hyder Ali
was by now a legendary figure, because he was winning and he was this flamboyant Indian prince. Because you see, there are 2 paintings of Hyder Ali. One is where he is dressed like a French general, so the headgear, he's wearing the turban. But अब उनका बाकी का देखिए, it's just that वो strap और chains लगा हुआ होता है ना, एक तरफ button, एक तरफ chain. So it's that sort of a military or European military dress that he wears. So that image was really popular in Europe at that time. So here was this Indian ruler of obscure origin who suddenly comes onto the scene and then upsets the calculations of the British. And because the Americans were fighting against the British, so they were propping up or using icons that were fighting against British elsewhere. So like I said, the world even then was a bit connected. So the information was reaching was reaching the American colonies, and they knew about someone called Hyder Ali, and later on Tipu Sultan. So that's why to irritate the British, the
Yes,
ship was named
it's named as
Hyder
Hyder.
Ali.
So now coming
yeah,
to
so
the
that shows the popularity of.
now coming to the concluding point, when final war happened and the
Mm.
Tiger was on the field and Tiger was felt defeated and he lost his life. And even though this was shown as very dramatic moment in many serials and in the but what was the reality, how it happened?
You see, the Tipu Sultan overplayed his hand, So he fought with the Raja of Travancore.
Yes.
And so, of course, he used diplomacy as long as possible. But when he realized that the Raja of Travancore was unwilling, because what he had done was he had cut off the access to the sea for the Mysore army by building a wall. So ये wall यार Trump बनाता है तब भी problem होता है, Raja Travancore बनाता है तब भी problem होता है. So
this was the problem.
So yeah. So the Tipu Sultan runs into that wall, and then he threatens the Raja, and then the Travancore army also attacks Mysorean posts. So it was provocation, of course, and eventually Tipu Sultan realized that he could no longer solve this matter through diplomacy. He has to use force. So he attacks Travancore, the Raja, and Raja Rama Varma the, I think. तो उनके खिलाफ जो है army भेजते हैं, and immediately, as if the East India Company was looking for an opportunity, immediately the company announces war against Mysore. And now Tipu Sultan is in soup because he had not fully recovered from the previous war. His army was not till full strength. Plus, his resources were also drying up because you can't have warfare for so many years.
Yes.
So this was an avoidable war, which I don't think Tipu Sultan was anticipating that the British are going to declare war. So then he started to rise to the occasion, but he failed. Because he was surrounded, like I said, the Marathas sent their contingents, the Nizam sent his contingent, the British, of course, sent two armies, one from Bombay, of course, three armies rather, one from Madras, the other from Bombay. Cornwallis himself came down. So, and eventually, despite some reverses, the company eventually managed to force Tipu Sultan to sign a humiliating treaty of Srirangapatnam. So he had to, give up half of his kingdom, also send two of his sons as hostages to Madras, and that was a lot of loss of money, property, and prestige.
Yes.
And he struggled after that because we see that Tipu Sultan's the idiom of his rule becomes more and more religious, more Islamic from that point on. So we see that because he was looking inwards now. So that when you're faced with adversity, you turn to religion. That has been traditionally the case. So Babur suffers. He's threatened by the Rajputs at Khanwa, so he reuses religion. A man who had nothing to do with religion otherwise.
Yes.
So the same thing happens with Tipu Sultan. Though Tipu Sultan was more religious-minded, but still, the way he turned inward and he would regularly pray, and not just to his own gods, but he would also appease the temples that he protected and all that. So regularly, these these tributes would be sent, and then we see that just like the British were doing to him, he started using the language of jihad against the British. Okay, so now the fight against the British was like a jihad for him. So we see this from that period that he loses his son and his prestige. What's a 18th century religious-minded leader going to do? He's going to turn towards religion and maybe seek God's forgiveness for whatever wrong that he may have done. So we see that in Tipu Sultan's case. And in 2 years, he actually manages to pay off the war indemnity, which was of 3 crore 30 lakh, 330 million rupees.
330 million rupees
at that time's money. 330 million rupees war indemnity he had to pay. अच्छा उनमें से 3 crore तो war indemnity था, बाकी 30 लाख जो है इन कंपनी ऑफिशियल्स के लिए गिफ्ट्स खरीदने थे.
Okay.
तो उस पे वो पैसा गया ताकि जो है जो people who fought against him, they could be rewarded for that. So the company would not pay it from its own coffers कि हमें अपने सिपाहियों को जो है ट्रीट देना है, इनको गिफ्ट्स देने हैं, पर इसका पैसा भी तुम ही दोगे. So it was like that. But he manages to recover. At least his sons. In 2 years, in 1794, his sons are back with him.
Back with him.
But what he does increasingly from this point is, now he's trying desperately to get assistance from foreign powers. With the French, he tried. It was no longer possible because France had the revolution in 1789. Everything was in a turmoil, and of course, the rise of Napoleon happens around that time. And then he sends a futile embassy to Mauritius. कि मतलब कहीं से तो कुछ तो मिले राहत. So he sends a peace mission to Mauritius. The Mauritius governor, who's a French, so he issues a public decree that the ruler of Mysore has asked for help. So can troops be sent? And that decree is published by newspapers in Calcutta. कि देखिए ये सब हो रहा है. And that is used by Wellesley as an excuse, and also this letter by Napoleon, ki I'm coming to your assistance. No, I'm going to free you from the British. So the Turks don't encourage him much because they know that they can't fight against the English. The English were already a very strong power in Europe. They didn't want to ruffle feathers and upset their whole alliance with the British. He then tries to get the help of Zaman Shah of Afghanistan. कि भाई Ahmad Shah Abdali आए थे तो आप भी आइए, उन्हीं के descendant हैं. So he was trying to get as much help as possible from any source, any straw that he could clutch on.
This is also clear because in this situation all the neighbors were hostile. There is no help from Marathas. There is no help from
neighbors were hostile.
Yeah.
His neighbors were hostile, and it was in fact only Mahadji Scindia who had sympathy for him. But not Nana Fadnavis. Nana Fadnavis was completely against this business of Mysore. But Mahadji Scindia, as long as he was alive, he did not want Tipu Sultan to be harmed, or the Marathas, they didn't want them to fight against Tipu Sultan. But Mahadji Scindia dies during this 1794 or 96 mein wo khatam hote hain, and then of course there's no resistance in the court.
And then same with the Nizam. Same with the Nizam.
So Nizam, of course, Nizam was a puppet. So unka to apna kuch tha hi nahi. So
Definitely.
he thought that this is, and he didn't treat Mysore very highly. Okay, he did not regard them highly because he thought that, "Arey hum to jo hai, we come from a very shining lineage."
And old
और ये लोग तो upstarts हैं, पता नहीं कहाँ से आ गए हैं, आप तो खुद को रसूल के जो है फैमिली वाले बताते हैं.
Exactly.
So it's like that, So because the Nizam, Hyder Ali wanted a marital alliance with Hyderabad, कि टिपू सुल्तान की शादी हो, but the Nizam's family refused. तो ये सब चल रहा था. So and then they all ganged up against him. And the moment these letters started coming out, Richard Wellesley utilized that opportunity, and he was, in fact, willing to go a step further than Lord Cornwallis. He said, nothing doing. And there's, in fact, an exchange of letters between Tipu Sultan and Lord Wellesley as well, where both of them are very polite. And Tipu Sultan is telling him that, see, you have misunderstood me. I'm not doing anything that you are accusing me of. But Lord Wellesley refuses to listen, of course, and then his whole campaign is mobilized and resources are pooled. And finally, the Fourth Anglo-Mysore War happens. It had to happen at some point. So they had to finish off Tipu Sultan because he was turning out to be an unrelenting foe. Now वो सुलह करेंगे अंग्रेजों के साथ, ना उनको जो है अपने कोर्ट में जाने देंगे. So what do? So you have to forcibly open up.
So he was forced, and they were forcibly open up, and there was a lot of dissensions inside his relatives, his generals, his army. They were also bribed.
Absolutely, and you see that he was. You see that was quite an unfortunate end. But of course, the way he died is actually what changed his image in the minds of the British. Because you see, after 1799, the projection of Tipu Sultan becomes increasingly positive, even in literature. Okay, so you have somebody like Sir Walter Scott who says that when Napoleon surrenders and is exiled to St. Helena, so he says that I was expecting something like that. This is not his exact quote, but you can always look it up. But Tipu Sahib died manfully at the breach of his capital, and Napoleon was expected to do something like that, but he did not do. So
Did
this
not
was
do.
to suggest that Tipu Sultan was a greater man than Napoleon. So that was what Walter Scott said, and there were others, of course, who because he became a larger than life figure, and the way he died like an ordinary battalion officer. And there was the British at least were not familiar with an Indian king dying in the field of battle, defending his capital, and not making peace arrangements with them. So I think for them, it was bravery. Of course, it was bravery in its extreme
They
form.
were expecting that there was some peace call will come up and some
Yes.
humiliating treaty will sign up. We will send him in or something like that.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely. So, but he went down, and that's why the tiger thing resonates very well.
Yes.
He went down like a tiger. So that's why it's in British literature that you would come across these terms. So more than Indian sources. So Tipu Sultan that way, yes. That's why the last real obstacle to British domination of India was actually Mysore. Even though the Marathas kept on fighting till 1803, in 1818. But that resistance cannot be compared to Mysore, because the British did not consider them an ideological foe the way they consider Hyder Ali and Tipu Sultan, more Tipu Sultan. So that way, Mysore's resistance was quite something.
Quite something much larger. And now in these days, we are now almost 1 hour. Our talk has been going on. So I think we are going to be concluding point. No more questions are coming also from the audiences now. So
no, I think they will ask at some point.
Yeah, at that.
But yes.
So let us ask about the point that now in these days we find that with the new ideological changes, there is a lot of allegations on Tipu's character, Tipu's behavior, his policies towards minorities, his forced conversion, destruction of temples. There is a lot of things going on. So how far this has been changed in the narration? Maybe there would be some evidences, even though there are evidences that some of the temples that was damaged by the Marathas during the war. I think I've read
the Sringeri Mutt.
Sringeri Mutt in 1791, and that was repaired again. And again, second one is Ranganathan Swami Temple that also received a lot of aids, and there are other temples also. So how much this narrative is correct, or it happened in some instances of the time, maybe as you told that in his later life or for a particular period?
See, even when he was using, religious symbolism, he was also patronizing temples. Okay, so that had nothing to do with, see, if you are a pragmatic ruler, you will continue with the systems that you have inherited, especially the cultural systems. So you will not, do things that would seriously upset the social order. So you would not do if you're a good king. So Tipu Sultan did not do any of that. But yes, he did carry out atrocities. He did carry out forced conversions. He did destroy and desecrate temples. But these were enemy territories.
Enemy territories,
so
yes.
What he deemed to be not his, like Mysoreans are his people, they are not to be harmed.
Yes.
But those who rebel against him, or those who side against him with the British, for instance, the Christians whom he suspected because of their faith, that okay, they are Christians, the British are also Christians, therefore the Syrian Malabar Christians, they don't have a good experience. The Kyrgyz don't have a good experience because he dislocated their population. Brought some of them to Mysore. So these are things that Tipu Sultan has done. He also desecrated their temples, destroyed one church, brought its bill, donated it to a Hindu temple in his kingdom. So
this was a part of a medieval warfare, and it happened before also, and it happened in his neighboring states also, as we can say in Marathas kingdom also, in Nizam's dominion.
So you see, that also explains what the Marathas did to Sringeri Mutt or Sri Ranganatha Swami temple, right? Yes. So how do you expect Hindus to do desecrations of a temple that is so sacred, where you have the Shankaracharya who is seated?
But that was enemy territory. That was enemy territory.
Yeah, so that actually explains that. So people in later times, in fact, more recent amateur historians have tried to give religious spin to this They also tried to defend the Marathas by saying, the Marathas did not intend it because there are certain letters that were exchanged. But you see what the Marathas did in Bengal, right? So,
Yes.
there's no point defending these historical actions because they were done, they were compulsions of their time. These things were done. Tipu Sultan desecrated temples. Within Srirangapatnam, he destroyed one temple, which was patronized by the Wadiyar family.
Hmm.
He did not destroy the bigger, more important Sri Ranganatha Swami temple because that was a temple that Hyder Ali and he patronized.
Okay, so this is against affiliations.
Yes. So, so these things happen. So there's no point denying that. But you cannot say this. There is still a temple in the south today that offers one thali in the name of Tipu Sultan even today. And we had done a story in the Times of India because every evening when the evening aarti happens, one of the thalis is presented in the name of Tipu Sultan by the temple because he had patronized that temple. He issued them grants, and there are no copper plate inscriptions that are there, farmans which are there. So these are historical things that have happened.
So suddenly something happened in 18th century. You cannot make jihadi in the modern days. Jihadi Tipu Sultan.
Yes, absolutely. Considered to be his enemies. For instance, the Mehdavis. They were Muslims. He went after the Mehdavis like anything, like no one else. Okay, so he completely banished the entire Mehdavi population from Srirangapatnam. And later on, what do you see? That in the British army, in the company army, there are some Mehdavis who are serving in the army contingents, right? So that was his apprehension that they're going to turn against him.
That's why there was
never really.
So religion definitely, you saw the Ibrahim Gardi on the side of Marathas, you see the Hindus, ministers on the side of Tipu Sultan, and it happens always. So even definitely these nationalistic terms were not born in that day. The United India concept was not born. Definitely it was territorial, regional, and all these influences. So
and also, as far as possible, people wanted to avoid war, and that was the Indian custom. So if garrisons could be bought out, you could, if you could win a fort without fighting a shot, you would do that. So it was a normal, common practice in India at that time. So you just had to pay them money, and the entire garrison money, in the sense that many of these armies would not be paid for months. So they would be running in arrears. So if some rival power comes and tells them that I'm going to clear all your dues, they would say, okay, then we'll surrender the fort and we'll go.
Is a common
That's
thing
how the Duke of Wellington, the future Duke of Wellington, Sir Arthur Wellesley, even when his Deccan campaign happens, he starts taking these forts which are controlled by the Marathas and defended by the Arabs, by the way. There were Arab troops there in the Maratha army. So these forts were defended by an Arab garrison. And they were offered, the British offered them money that, okay, we are going to clear your dues. And they said, okay, fine. We are going to give up.
They took the Marathas as a hostage. And then,
yes. So it happened. It was quite common. So you cannot ascribe religious motives.
Seema Shah has a question. Is there pop up here?
No, I think that we should see Tipu Sultan's life in its entirety. He was a just king to his people. The Mysore peasant was prosperous under him and his father, and he did not persecute them unless, of course, there was a reason, a threat that he perceived from their end. Okay, so Ghulam Mustafa Sahab has a question. Only if there's mere hate or some ideological perspective that has caused anti-Tipu air in India. It is, you see, you have to understand that most of this comes from what you call Hindu nationalism, okay? And Hindu nationalism, if you read its core texts, like Bunch of Thoughts and We or Our Nationhood Defined, then you would see that very clearly the founders of this ideology had said that the enemy of Hindus or the people of India would be three: the communists, the Christians, and the Muslims. So it's a continuation of that philosophy that has that we have seen, that have given rise to these claims that he was anti-Hindu and all that. Now, how do you explain the fact that somebody who was hailed up as a freedom fighter, which I think was an exaggeration, and mind you, this exaggeration was pointed out as early as 1950s, mid 1950s, early 1950s, when Moibul Hasan wrote his biography of Tipu Sultan.
Yes.
He very clearly said in the preface, it was not a biography as such, it was a whole history of Tipu Sultan. He wrote in the preface that, people tend to call him a freedom fighter. I think that's an exaggeration. He was just fighting for his own independence. So that sense was there in the 1950s as well. So now when you turn around and say that, okay, the lefty historians and all these people have called Tipu a freedom fighter, Arey Baba, Tipu Sultan's picture is also there in the original constitution. The original constitution honors him. If there's Ram and Sita in that, there's also Tipu Sultan in that.
Definitely.
You just have to look it up and see. So Tipu Sultan was as part of the nationalist narrative of the time, was hailed as a great Indian hero and a freedom fighter because he fought against the British. Maybe that was necessary at that time because we were fighting the freedom movement and anti-colonial resistance movement. So anyone and everyone who fought against the British was hailed as a freedom fighter. That explains why Rani Lakshmibai is such an icon. She was fighting for her own independence. She was not fighting for a free India, right? Similarly, Tipu Sultan was fighting for his own independence. But in the process, the way he fought, the way he resisted, and
the
Tipu
way
Sultan's
countrymen,
awareness.
Yes.
The awareness. Tipu Sultan had the awareness. He had the awareness. He had the foresight that the British are here to stay and they're going to alter the lifestyle of the people of the subcontinent. So I think that is what separates him from every other Indian king of his time.
Thank you, Abhi, for your nice feedback and for your time you came in and listened, both of us. From me and Mani, very much thanks.